kiss for you.
Alright, let's talk about two things. Running out of time and review scores. Well, you can probably identify one of those things at least. I'm going to be graduating in May, so videos might be a little bit weird coming up as I try to find a job and an apartment and all that. But ultimately, I want to bring this video to kind of talk about, where we end up going as we're getting older, and maybe to your first job or to an executive level job where you have to kind of focus on that more. But ultimately, we kind of run out of time to play games and to do our hobbies that we want, either because of those jobs or because of other factors, and so we tend to go to review scores, right? So like an example would be a lot of people are busy, and so they might not be able to, play games or have a good amount of time until like the weekend or Friday, and so you're going to look at review scores for a game and figure out, do I want to sort of do this game, and do I want to spend the time to learn the mechanics and stuff, or do I just want to play a different game that might be one of my liking? So we check review scores, right? So like the new Avatar, for example, might not be something that you want to do because you're like, oh, it looks like... Just had to do that real quick. Yeah, so the new Avatar game, we got like a 72, and you might look at it and you're like, oh, it's the same kind of boring gameplay, and I'm not a super big Avatar fan, so I'm not going to be, picking that one up. And you'll be missing what's ultimately a pretty great experience. I mean, to me, someone who likes the Avatar series and someone who likes the Far Cry format there, right? And so you look at the review scores, like, nah, I might as well play a different game there, and something that I like more. So you pass up things that you might otherwise enjoy just because of that. And one thing I kind of realized on top of that fact of like, okay, well, you're running out of time. In this case, me, as we're getting closer to graduation and stuff, and trying to figure out, where I'm going, I start to focus on that more than play games and other hobbies, and so that combined with the need to look at review scores and say, okay, I don't have time to play all these things, so let's see what I can do, right? Yeah, so you do that and you look at review scores and you're like, oh, I'm not gonna play this, and you end up buying a bunch of games you don't play or can't time to play, right? But ultimately, what I want to kind of touch on is the fact that I've been working right now with senior project team for my senior project, and the one thing that we're looking at is...
Hey, hold on.
Why are you here?
What's that then?
The Brute's back? I just killed him. Yeah, so I've been working on a senior project. It's like a submarine or whatever, right? And one thing you learn as you're trying, or virtual reality submarine for people that are like claustrophobic or elderly, or people that don't want to explore the submarine that we're making the replica of, basically. And what you learn from that is trying to reduce friction, right? VR is a very big thing in terms of friction, generally speaking, just getting people comfortable with it and all that. A lot of people don't really like, dealing with, and so you try to reduce friction as much as you can. And one thing you end up realizing is just, what small things you might not, things you might not think about, like, oh, how easy is it to move? How easy is it to look around or teleport or something? And you end up realizing, oh, it's actually for people that don't understand this, people that this isn't intuitive to it, becomes a very, laborious process, and so you try to reduce friction from user feedback. And the reason that I bring this up is because it also applies to games, and I think a great example is when I was doing Last Epoch and Diablo 4, because I made a video on Last Epoch, and while I was playing the game, it was very, there wasn't a lot of friction, right? You could kind of do what you want and kind of move through the game pretty easily.
Hey now. Die, idiot.
No. I missed.
Hey!
Why am I hitting nothing? Where did all... What?
That!
All right. Oh well. So yeah, the friction that plays the games too, because like Last Epoch and Diablo 4, Last Epoch was pretty frictionless. I could kind of just play it and talk about it, and it wasn't that bad. And then Diablo 4, I just really couldn't. That was nothing I could do because, well, there was an issue, not an issue. There's a gameplay thing where basically everything takes a lot of mana at the start, and so you have to spend your mana wisely. But no, everything scales, so nothing does enough damage. So you end up shooting 2 like piercing shots, and that's like most of your mana gone. And then you have to rebuild with stupid basic attacks that don't have enough range or damage, and it's just really annoying. And that was kind of friction. It's like I'm not going to spend 10 hours or so to get through this part of the game just so I can start enjoying the game when I have another game that's similar that just does it better, right? And so I kind of, don't really care that Diablo 4 got all these high reviews and is praised for the campaign if I don't want to experience the campaign because it's annoying for that reason. That I'm not going to. And it's just one of those things where it's like, people might like the campaign or not really focus on that, but for someone like me that gets annoyed by those things and can't really spend the time to do that, I'm just going to go to something else, right? So it doesn't really matter the review score at that point. I think another good example of that is the Witcher series. I bought The Witcher 3, I modded it to, have all that stuff. And I really didn't like the combat. I didn't like the quest structure. Not that the quests were bad. Obviously, The Witcher 3 quests are known for being very good, but just kind of the format of having to like scavenge and figure out where like a boss would be, for example, having to make all the potions and lay traps and stuff, and then fighting the boss with the awful combat, and it's like a flying boss, so it's like really hard to hit, and then it's like above you. I remember the one quest was pretty similar to that. Yeah, one quest was pretty similar to that, and it was I had to go and find like a flying thing, and I had to like place a certain potion in a cave, and it would spawn, and it was really hard. It was really hard to kind of not get the potion, but like it was quite a trek. You'd like get the potion from somewhere and then go all the way over to the cave and put it on the cave, and then at the end of the cave you would it would like go outside and you have to fight it, but it's like flying around. It's also like too high level above you, and so it just becomes like a big problem. So that just wasn't fun. And there's a bunch of quests like that. It was like, okay, well, we're just not gonna, like, the combat wasn't good enough to justify an encounter like that, and there wasn't like a level or anything. It wasn't like a boss arena. It was just kind of like a thing that happened, right? And so it's out in this big open zone where the camera's not working well because it's like above you right here, and you have to kind of like, I don't have, like, in this game I have a bow and arrow, right? In The Witcher I don't have a bow, an arrow or something like that I can just kind of easily sort of work on. Is that it for this section? Yeah, I don't have like a bow and arrow, and so it's really annoying, and that's one of the things where it's like, yeah, enough friction points like that, and even a game like Witcher 3 that people say is great just kind of annoys me, right? So I just kind of stopped caring about that game and uninstalled it. It's not because it's bad or whatever, it's just like not really my thing, like I'm kind of tired of these. You may say, oh, well, you're tired of this, and yet you're playing Assassin's Creed Origins or Odyssey, right? But it's really because those games are pretty frictionless. Like, yeah, sure, it can be mindless, but at least it's not actively annoying. Like, it's not something that's either too hard or too obscure or like a bad mechanic. It's pretty understandable, and so it's easy to play. And I'm not saying I don't need challenge, but like, I'm not saying I don't like challenge. I'm just saying that, like, overall, I'd rather have something that either is like a well-designed challenge, like something like Remnant, right? I like Remnant, and I like Remnant 2 because, well, it was sort of very, like, relatively difficult. It had good mechanics, and more importantly, I could figure, like, everything kind of fit into place, especially in the first game, where, like, your gun sounded great, and they had great feedback, and you could hear when mobs were coming at you and stuff, kind of determine where you wanted to go from there. And it was really nice because you could kind of, like, basically dodge. Hiding thing. Basically, you could like dodge behind you and avoid attacks and stuff, and so basically all the systems that game had worked really well, and also in the second game. And so it wasn't that I didn't need challenge; it's just that I need something that like has enough kind of systems at work to mitigate, the challenge isn't the thing I'm annoyed at, right? Like, it's always like, okay, this is hard, but I have the tools and I have this kind of fun, motivating factor to keep playing, which I think a lot of games don't really have. Even good games, right, don't really have. That's obviously not to say that like reviews are totally useless, but I think a lot of reviews are obviously impossible to quantify, like the quality of fun that you might be able to have in a game. So like I recently got like the dot like JRPGs are I guess a great example. I recently got Dot Hack, the Dot Hack first like 3 games or whatever because they were on sale on the Switch for like $10. So it's like okay, people are saying this is pretty good. Let's try and see what this is about. And it's miserable because it's this. It's like it was the first game at least. It's a collection, but the first game was like a game of 3. It was like sorry, it was 2006. 3, I meant Persona 3. It was around Persona 3, and the reason that's important is because it's using the same system of like the procedurally generated dungeons, basically just like a big empty map that you kind of go through. But where Persona had great music and great combat to kind of fix the fact that that section wasn't that good, this doesn't, right? It basically was just you're running, and the combat is you basically hit the A button to attack, and spam the A button to attack, and then you are able to press the basically have like your 4 abilities and use one of those. And if you use your 4 abilities after you've hit the mob with A enough, like you just spam A, and eventually hit a purple thing, and you press the special ability on that purple thing, and then you get an even better setup. And that's it. That's the combat. That's the depth. And there's other like party members, right? There's a couple other party members that you can do with that, but that's literally it. It's just A, spamming A, maybe doing A little bit differently, activating your ability, and then waiting until all those things activate like a purple ring, and then you can use like a special bonus. And that's the equivalent of the combat. And it's like, okay, well, you go through procedurally generated crap dungeons like that.
Lazy peasants!
Like
Make
kill you.
yourselves useful! Thank the gods!
Yes. Damn, this game looks so good. Like, what the hell? Like, the architecture of this game is fantastic. I don't understand. It's like... Are we regressing? Because, like... Sure, the texture of this isn't, as high as it could be, but, like, look at this game, man. Like, you got the 2 sheep, you got the desert, you got this desert thing. I'm gonna go up into the sky real quick. Like, you got all the points here. Where's the point? It's not bad. It's like a point really high up. Trying to find... Is it this point right here? Nope. That's... yeah, but... what was I saying? We were talking about the friction, we were talking about The Witcher. Ultimately, I felt like it was pretty... Oh yeah, Dot Hack. Yeah, so it was basically just a bunch of randomly generated things, and the reason that mattered was because Persona 3 had done that around the same time, 2006, but again, it had better things that it could do. And so Dot Hack was really kind of rough in that regard, and it just wasn't fun. Like, it just wasn't fun, and that got, like 78 or 80. But it's really hard to quantify a 78 or 80 game that versus a game that's just, like, painfully boring and, like, there's no reason to play it kind of thing. So... Yeah, it didn't really hit that same kind of level as a game that you might want from that kind of style. And that's a lot of games that either are just like not what you're looking for or not as interesting as they could be. And that's kind of like how you get reviews. It's like, oh, this should be great, and it's not as great, or maybe there's a problem with it, but you're not going to really identify that by reviews. As well as also just the hard kind of ability to kind of look through with, like if you look at like OpenCritic, it's only at the time that it came out, and so something like Diablo 4 might have an 88 because at the time it looked like, oh, it's great, and then they add all the crap in and they don't improve things, and now it's not as good. Or you look at something like Metacritic, which does the opposite. It constantly updates, so anytime there's an update for a new thing, it sucks. Right, and that's always also not great because you don't you know, you don't always get maybe what the actual picture wrote. If there was maybe like an update that added, you know, a new battle pass that people don't like, or maybe it was an update that added, you know, like a very big bug, it might get, you know, review bombed or something, and you don't really know if people are just mad at it for that reason. Oh, the bird just killed it for me. Yeah, I don't know if people are mad at that reason, or if it's actually just like the game sucks now, right? So the two edges of that sword both aren't great, because it's always kind of trying to look at, like, yeah, it's really hard to get an objective review, right? Because everyone will say, like, for example, I think New World was another good one. Initially it reviewed well, and it was really, you know, good for that moment, and then they kind of didn't do anything with it and made it slip, and so it went down. Then they released an expansion that went pretty well, and that went up, and then they didn't do anything again after that, and so it went down, and so it never really got, let's just say, it never kind of got to its potential. And so games like that are really hard to kind of recommend or kind of figure out where they stand, because some people might really love it because they're remembering that time when they played it and they loved it, and other people aren't doing that at all and just annoyed that, you know, what's becoming of the game, so they kind of don't recommend it. And then obviously there's hundreds of videos, and so it becomes a mess, right? And so if you're trying to actually figure out what you want in a game, it becomes very hard to figure that out. So I'd ultimately just suggest, you know, like, as predatory as potentially the subscription services can be, just having something to try out games as much as you can are really helpful, because you never know. Ultimately, what you like and what you don't like. You know, people might, you know, shit on whatever kind of thing you're looking for, and then all of a sudden for you it's like a great game. Like, I would say, you know, Origins or Odyssey, a lot of the Ubisoft stuff, a lot of games that might not get as much attention. So things like the for RPGs, I could say the Bait and Kratos, or maybe some dungeon RPGs like Etrian Odyssey, or other smaller titles. Ubisoft had a really good, like Mario & Rabbids Kingdom Battle, where for tactics games, really good tactics games, both of those ones there. For, I guess, you know, like, there's obviously like the Crew for racing, if you like kind of that mode. And so there's all these games that kind of people kind of ignore or don't think too highly of. Stuff like, you know, like F1, if you like F1 or interested in that kind of racing stuff, then the F1 game by EA seemed like it was pretty good, and people were pretty happy with, you know, what they did. If you wanted more arcade racer, there was like the Lego game there. So it's all really dependent. Oh, that's it's all pretty much highly dependent on what you're looking for. But like, look at, you know, maybe not the 7 out of 10s, but look at games that maybe don't have as many reviews, or that might pique your interest and talk about. And then that's even harder too, right? Because you might look at Steam reviews for a game like Dot Hack. And Dot Hack reviews don't seem really positive, because people that remember that and played that game are going to rate it highly. And so it's just like what you're looking for. So a good example is like Horizon Forbidden West is a great game by a lot of people's standards, and has a lot of those great elements. To me, I don't like it. And, well, I don't not like it. I just think that you could definitely, things could be improved, right, overall in that game. And the reason I think so is because, for example, when they ported it to PC, obviously you put keyboard mouse support. Keyboard mouse support's very difficult, because it's very hard to climb in that game. Very hard to climb in that game. And the reason it's hard to climb in that game is because they don't give you like a typical climbing system. They give you like a weird climbing system, and so you're never quite sure what you can and can't climb. And then you're also not sure like what the button is to release. So like, you'd think the button is, you'd think the button to climb is like the left, the arrow, not arrow keys, but WASD. It is WASD, except it is WASD, but to let go, it's control. But it doesn't tell you what's control, and you'd think it'd be like shift, because that's also the button to keep going or to like move forward. So like jump across stuff, and so you think, okay, I'm at the last part of the ledge, I want to get off. So you think, okay, press S and shift, right, to back off. That's not how it works. You have to press control, but control isn't a drop. It's like a ledge. It's like a back move. It's like when you're jumping off of something, like an eject, right? And so that doesn't work because then it basically, if you're like over a cliff, it'll launch you off the cliff. Like there's no actual drop button, and so climbing becomes really hard on keyboard and mouse because you're doing left and right, and you're trying to back off. And when you back off, the camera like doesn't turn. So you, instead of like Assassin, is there anything here can I climb onto like a tree? So like if I go up here, right, and I no, it looks like I'm stuck on the tree. All right, where'd my horse go? So yeah, but it's like a not as a smooth climbing situation for a game that's primarily about climbing things. That was kind of annoying, and then the focus thing wasn't great. Like, there's a focus thing in Assassin's Creed to do that, but it's an entire field scan, and as annoying as people might say entire field scans are, at least I don't have to scan individual enemies, for God's sakes. Like, the thing was, scan the surrounding, and then you can scan individual enemies, find their weakness and stuff through the, like, data sheet, basically. And that's really annoying, because I'd rather just not do that. I'd rather it just tell me what the thing is if I hover my bow over it, which I'm already shooting anyway. That would be nice, but it doesn't do that, so you don't really get that opportunity. You have to like scan everything and then scan the environment for stuff you can find. Kill animal. This is going well. Oh, I missed. 1, 2. Right. Oh, I missed. Yep. Oh. Is that the animal we were looking for? Where's the animal? Kill animal, where are we looking?
Whoa.
Alright, that was easy. Yeah, so that was just kind of really annoying. That no problem. Oh, what's happening? Yeah, that was kind of really annoying. It was like I have to scan the environment and scan them instead of just having it on my bow, which. So overall, it's just things that I'm like, this is not great, and also the environments were kind of weird, and so it was not. It was just a bunch of things that kind of add up to a not fun experience. And like, sure, games could do that, but it was immediate. It was like, okay, the story's not making a ton of sense because it went directly from the previous one, and the previous game I played, like a while back, like back when it came out in 2017. So I didn't have a super great example of what that was. So I just kind of had to like follow on the story, and then it was like the kind of weird climbing and the environment, and the combat was fine, but it was one of those things where like, okay, the bow feels fine, the melee is kind of weird, so it just didn't really feel all that cohesive, and it was just like, okay, well, if I'm gonna play this, I might as well play something else that I feel is more immediate or more like understandable, right? So.
Whoa.
Something more immediate, something more understandable. And again, not to say that game's bad. I'm sure it's great if I gave it more time. But even people that liked that game said, yeah, give it past the first 10 hours. And usually I'm, relatively fine with that. I wouldn't say something like Persona 5 Royal, which is one of my favorite games. I wouldn't say that, specifically is great for the first 10 hours. But it's definitely interesting, and stuff that keeps it interesting is the music.
Whoa.
And the, this is yeah, stuff like the music, stuff like the combat, the style that the game had, the kind of just accessibility. That game is very frictionless, right? You're pretty functional structure. You're going, you're learning about.
Whoa.
Eagles are just one taps? Yeah, okay. Oh, it's mine. I see. I was like, huh, there's there's weird birds over here killing everything. It's mine, I see.
Whoa.
Yeah, but it was just one of those things where it's very frictionless, right? You have a bunch of days, and you're going through the days, and every day you'll learn a little bit more about either your social stuff or the person you're trying to take down the palace. And so it was a loop of doing the school stuff, and then doing the either dungeon stuff or any other activities you were able to do. And it was really nice because it was, one day after the next. You could kind of just keep playing that game. It was a very chill, very relaxing experience, which is what I'd say like a lot of these things end up being, and hopefully maybe what this video does, it doesn't end up being 4 hours long. It's just kind of like a discussion around, all this, and but Personas are very frictionless, like 100 hours, but you're just kind of going through the days and working on social skills and working on things that you might have interests in and all that, and so it felt very freeing, right? You don't have to do dungeons, you don't have to grind mementos, for example, and that's the dungeon stuff that some people might not like. You can do, your batting, or you're going to the cafeteria, or going to, going to mementos, doing some side quests, or working on, fusing personas, and there's all these different options, and basically what that does is, give you some relief from the daily grind of dungeons, of going through that, because that can be kind of repetitive, but it's also pretty frictionless most of the time. When it's not is when it gets annoying. So for example, the what? Oh, I see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so the third palace, which is a bank. So typically I rated the
Whoa.
Yep. Oh, missed it. Oh, I can just run over these people. It's one of them. 2 of them. 3 of them. Yeah, so the bank was really annoying because I typically rated the Persona stuff on like how good the dungeon was, how good the setup to the dungeon was, like the story to the dungeon, how good the boss was, and how good the transformation of the person that transformed was. And the bank was the worst, right? Because it was basically just a setup of like this awful banker dude that, of course, he's evil because he's a banker dude. Got like pictures of us in his like strip club or something, and that was going to be like a problem. So we had to come and like beat him in his palace.
Whoa.
And it was a really annoying like puzzle dungeon, and like a really long, really annoying puzzle dungeon. And it was just like a very not fun time that kind of just kept going and never ended. And the boss was really annoying because, I mean, this could have been my fault, but I ran out of energy, and so I kind of just had to basic attack him, or relatively basic attack him, but so that wasn't great. And it was also like really not a fun boss fight because he kept like debuffing us, so you kind of had to like remove the debuff in order to really do anything. It was just not fun, and then we eventually got it, and the person that transformed was good, right? It was Makoto, I think, that transformed with her like bike and stuff, but it didn't really feel earned. Like it was like, okay, we're kind of moving towards it, and then all of a sudden we ran out of time, even though we had so much time, and we just kind of had to rush towards that. And it was like, okay, well, she's transformed. We were kind of waiting on it, right? It's one of those things that's oddly dragged out and not dragged out.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was like, okay, we're dragging out to see her transformation, and yet we're also not getting anywhere in the story of her transformation with her like sister or anything like that. So it's kind of like, oh, we're just talking about it.
Whoa.
Oh, this is the impossible one. Yeah, like we were just talking about that thing happening in her transformation, and then eventually it's like, oh, she has to transform now, and then.
Whoa.
Yes, that was very underwhelming, and that's kind of. I had played the game for like 3 weeks straight, basically just grinding. I got level like 55 hours or whatever, and I had just beaten that not just beaten that palace, but I had like beaten that palace and then gone a couple days after. Because that takes a while. Like it's not immediate what that is or where it is. Yeah, it wasn't. It takes a while to get to that point, right? And so you can easily get like 50 hours just doing that, and the game's like 110 hours, and so. But that's kind of like one of the things where it's very frictionless. And then when you get friction, and it becomes a problem. Then it's like, okay, well, why am I doing this? I should probably do something else as I, become melded into kind of the flow of all that. But that was kind of one of the things where it's like that, and Fire Emblem also kind of Three Houses kind of hit that for me, where it was like a really addictive kind of loop there of battling and going back to the doing side quests and the monastery and then battling. It was nice and learning about what.
Our Magi has returned.
I've been here the entire time. I've been here literally the entire time.
Shemeni Nesu. Tonight.
We're just saying, Persona something about taking time. Oh yeah, the Fire Emblem was kind of like that.
What becomes of those who disobey Heduna? Priest to the Pharaoh. Take care you faithfully follow his beneficent commands.
Oh, I see. Can I shoot any of these?
Fagan!
You owe all you have. Your farms, your goods, your children. You owe your very life.
How the
to
fuck
this
did I
finest
miss?
Ptolemy
Stop moving!
benefactor,
What?
ruler of the two lands. It is a
Can I
sacred
not
duty
kill him?
to pay taxes to the Pharaoh. It is a sacred duty to heed him in all
I killed
things.
that one.
To do otherwise is a betrayal of the gods.
Okay, I guess not.
By order of the royal court,
I'll just...
all villages are...
Okay, I guess my arrows just didn't want to work because I could just do that. Alright, they're dead. Good job, team. Yeah, so far on was kind of like that. The whole back and forth between it was really nice. So I kind of into that for a while and put a bunch of time into that. And it's all just like, that's a game I literally bought on a whim. It was kind of the thing I was like, okay, I saw some gameplay, I saw it's playing, I was like, yeah, that's fun. And I kind of really got into it for a while there. I don't think I beat it. I got like 35 hours into it, I would say. I gotta kind of go back. It was kind of just one of those things that I, Okay, these are just mounts.
Godspeed.
Yeah, and so that was fun. But ultimately, I think the point of this is trying to make it as kind of like a podcast style thing. But the point of it was really just to say, don't necessarily trust reviews and put all your stake in them, and kind of just feel as you're running out of time to play games or do your hobbies. Kind of just feel out what makes the most sense and what kind of you think you like, But don't be surprised if things that are critically acclaimed don't end up being what you're looking for, or things that are less than stellar reviews still have something that you're really interested in. I think the best way to look at that is really look at some gameplay, look at some kind of notes on what you're looking for, and see if that really jives with your interest. So like for me, for this game, the reason I bought it, even though I said I wasn't going to buy anything else, it was on sale. I had like Epic Store credit or whatever. But it was also because I was interested in the setting, the ancient Egypt setting, and kind of doing that assassin stuff in ancient Egypt. And people were saying, in terms of bloat, it had the least amount. I was like, okay, let's do this one, right? I had gotten Odyssey for free, and I played a little bit of that, and I'm going to go back to that. I have it installed right now, right? And that was cool because, again, that setting of ancient Greece was pretty interesting, and having the whole ships and stuff and exploring ancient Greece. But ultimately, that I ended up dropping that after like 8 hours or so, and then came back a couple years later to kind of just see what I was missing, or see kind of what people were talking about, because a lot of people end up saying, oh, that's a bunch of bloat and a bunch of weird stuff, and I was like, okay, well, let's actually see, considering my interest changed, considering I'm running out of time, is this something I want to invest into? And for me, that really came down to, again, friction. But it also came down to like something like Remnant 2 is difficult, but doesn't have a ton of friction. There's not a lot of things that annoy the heck out of me that I'm like, oh, I wish like the enemies didn't have a ton of health, or I wish the movement was better or something. Everything in that game kind of works, and it works to a point where I can kind of keep playing it, not really worry about any of that stuff. And so to me, that's really important. And you obviously don't know that until you play it. And it also going to really depend on what you see of the game. But ultimately, if there's something that clicks with you, something that you're like, yes, I want to experience that, or I want to feel that, or I want to go about doing that, and kind of just evaluate that, right? For example, you might be one that buys all the sports games every year because you want to play a soccer game and you want to have that feeling of the soccer game. And the only one that really does that is EA with FIFA, or like FC Now, or Pro Evolution Soccer, which now is destroyed because they went free to play and all that stuff, right? So your only option is FIFA, and so you buy FIFA and you like it. Don't really care, what the reviews say. For example, I know that the purple one, which was like FIFA 23, I think, was pretty good. People kind of like that one. 20, whatever the purple one was. I really liked that one because it had some like advancements and actual changes and like Volta and stuff, right? And so they didn't really care about the reviews because people that were in that space kind of really enjoyed it. And so it's really just up to what you're trying to experience in that genre. And, the same thing with, Call of Duty and stuff. People liked, I didn't buy, but I was planning on buying Modern Warfare 2, the 2022 game. Because 2022 one, and I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting, right? They're doing a lot of stuff good with the campaign, and it seemed like the multiplayer was of relative quality compared to something like Vanguard, which did not look good. And so, people that buy those games, they look down. It's like, oh, how dare you buy this slop? And it's like, if you like it and you like the gunplay and you like kind of the campaign and all that, then why not kind of see if you can, pick up one of the games? And maybe it's not every year, but maybe it's, occasionally, and play with friends and stuff. And so it's ultimately just like, that's a game you didn't look at reviews, you knew they were going to be what they were, but you were interested in the multiplayer with your friends, right? And so that's what you're going to do, and that's what you're going to invest in. And it didn't really matter. Call of Duty, I believe, is also a franchise that's like, pretty low friction. Relatively speaking, you kind of just get in, do stuff, get out, right? And so people like that, right? They might not want to invest the time into something that's a little more involved, right?
Good to see you.
Now, I really do believe that that's ultimately kind of what happens. Why is this one labeled E? Is that what I have equipped? Yes. Equipped, yeah, okay, that's fine. Let's upgrade you. Yeah, so ultimately, definitely, it's kind of just going back to that idea of like, what are you interested? What are you looking for? Don't be swayed by reviews. If you're running out of time, just do stuff that you think is going to be fun for you. That's ultimately all you can do at the end of the day, is find stuff that you're interested in and find stuff that you think is going to be fun. Because if it's not fun, then why are you... Hopefully this video doesn't end up being too long, but I suspect it's going to be pretty long. Oh, I'm out of money. Refill, arrows.
You have a discerning eye,
So if you want to see more videos on this, then make sure to do all that
Anytime
stuff,
I
and
can
I'll
help,
see everyone
I'm
in
here.
the next video.
Pennachte.